The mate bond snapped like a severed spine the moment Crown Prince Damien looked into Sage's eyes and said the words that would destroy her. Damien Blackthorn, reject you as my mate. The world tilted. Sage's knees buckled as fire raced through her veins, burning from the inside out. Around her, hundreds of wolves stood frozen in the ceremonial circle, their faces illuminated by the massive blood-red moon hanging low in the October sky. She could smell their shock, their pity, their satisfaction. This couldn't be happening. 5 minutes ago, she'd been standing at the edge of the gathering like always, an Omega content to watch the blood moon ceremony from the shadows. Then the pull had started, that irresistible magnetic force she'd only heard about in whispered stories. Her wolf had surged forward, howling with joy, dragging Sage through the crowd like a fish on a line. Straight to him. Damien Blackthorn stood at the center of the ceremonial platform in all his golden perfection, the crown prince of the Blackthorn Pack, future king of the Northern Territory, and the most eligible wolf in North America. His dark hair gleamed in the moonlight, his amber eyes glowed with alpha power, and his hand rested possessively on the waist of Katarina Silverclaw, daughter of the Southern Alpha. When Sage stumbled into the circle, those amber eyes had locked on hers, widening with recognition. With horror. The mate bond had clicked into place like a key turning in a lock, and for one perfect, shining moment, Sage had felt complete. Then Damien's face had twisted with disgust. No, he'd said, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is wrong. This is a mistake. Katarina had laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. An Omega? The moon goddess must be joking. Sage had stood there, frozen, as Damien stepped forward. She'd seen the calculation in his eyes, watched him weigh his options in the space of a heartbeat. Political alliance or fated mate. Power or destiny. He'd chosen power. Now, as the rejection slammed through her body, Sage gasped for air that wouldn't come. The bond should have severed cleanly. That's what always happened. One rejection, a moment of pain, then nothing. But the bond stretched instead of breaking, pulling taut like a rubber band drawn to its limit. The pain doubled, tripled, became something living and vicious inside her chest. Accept it, Damien commanded, his alpha voice pressing down on her. Accept the rejection. End this. Sage opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Her wolf thrashed inside her mind, howling denials, refusing to let go. Through the agony, she felt it, the bond, weakened but still there, still pulling. I said accept it. Damien's voice cracked like a whip. She can't. The new voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk, deep, rough, dangerous. The bond won't let her. The crowd parted as Alpha King Lucian Blackthorn stepped into the circle. Sage had seen the king before, of course. Everyone had. But never this close. Never with his full attention focused on her like a spotlight, pinning her in place. He was bigger than his son, broader through the shoulders, his body marked with the scars of 100 battles. His dark hair was shot through with silver at the temples, his face hard and weathered. But his eyes, those pale, ice-blue eyes, burned with an intensity that made her wolf whimper and press close. Father, this doesn't concern you, Damien said tightly. I've made my choice. She needs to accept. I heard what you said. Lucian's gaze never left Sage's face. He moved closer, each step deliberate, predatory. I'm wondering why you'd be fool enough to reject your fated mate. The Southern Alliance. Politics. Lucian's voice dripped with contempt. He stopped 3 feet away from Sage, close enough that she could smell him, pine and smoke and something wild. Her wolf quieted, just slightly. You'd reject your true mate for politics. You did, Damien shot back. Something flickered in Lucian's eyes, pain, old and deep. I didn't reject my mate, boy. She was killed. There's a difference. Sage swayed on her feet, the pain cresting again. Black spots danced across her vision. She was going to pass out. Going to collapse in front of everyone like the weak Omega they all thought she was. Then Lucian moved. One moment he was 3 feet away, the next his arm was around her waist, catching her before she hit the ground. The instant his skin touched hers, the bond pain receded like a wave pulling back from shore. Sage gasped, her hands clutching at his shirt as the world steadied. "How?" she started. "Quiet." His voice rumbled through his chest, vibrating against her cheek. He pulled her closer, and impossibly, the pain eased further. Her wolf purred, pressing toward him like a cat seeking warmth. This didn't make sense. He wasn't her mate. Damien was her mate. But Damien's presence made everything worse, while Lucian's touch soothed like cool water on a burn. "What's happening to her?" Katerina demanded, her pretty face twisted with suspicion. "Why isn't the rejection completing?" "Incomplete rejection," said Elder Marcus, stepping forward with his ceremonial staff. His ancient face was grave. "The bond formed but won't sever. This is unusual." "Unusual?" Damien barked out a laugh. "It's impossible. No one survives an incomplete rejection. The pain kills them within hours." "Then you'd better hope she's stronger than most," Lucian said quietly. He shifted his grip, lifting Sage into his arms like she weighed nothing. "Because if she dies from your rejection, boy, the blood debt falls to you." The crowd whispered, a susurrus of shock. Blood debt. If a wolf died from a mate's rejection, their family could demand retribution, life for life. Sage had no family. But as she looked up at Lucian's scarred face, felt his arms solid and steady around her, she wondered if she needed one. "Where are you taking her?" Damien demanded. "Away from you." Lucian's lip curled. "Your presence makes it worse. Or hadn't you noticed?" He had. Sage could see it in the tightness around Damien's eyes. The Crown Prince took a step back, and immediately, the pain eased another fraction. "This is insane," Katerina hissed. She moved closer to Damien, pressing against his side. "She's manipulating everyone. Look at her, that hair. Silver streaks like that aren't natural. She's probably cursed. Probably using dark magic too." "Enough." Lucian's command silenced the entire gathering. His wolf surged to the surface, making his eyes flash blue. "Everyone out. Ceremony's over." "Father, you can't just." "I'm still Alpha King, Damien. Until your coronation, what I say is law. And I say this gathering is finished." He looked down at Sage, and something softened in his expression. "Can you walk?" She should say yes. Should prove she wasn't weak. But the moment she tried to stand, her legs gave out, and the pain roared back. Lucian caught her again, cursing under his breath. "Right. We're doing this the direct way." He strode toward the forest edge, carrying her like she was something precious instead of a rejected Omega who just humiliated the Crown Prince. The crowd scattered before him, wolves pressing back to create a path. Sage caught glimpses of faces as they passed, shock, curiosity, fear, hatred. She saw Damien standing rigid on the platform, Katerina clinging to his arm, whispering poison in his ear. She saw Elder Marcus watching with ancient, knowing eyes. Then they were in the trees, and the sounds of the gathering faded behind them. "Where are we going?" Sage managed to whisper. "My private cabin. It's far enough from Damien that the bond shouldn't pull so hard." Lucian glanced down at her. "That silver in your hair, you were born with it?" She nodded. "And your parents?" "Dead. Both of them. Car accident when I was 3. "Any other family?" "No." His jaw tightened. "Then you're alone." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Yes." They walked in silence for several minutes, following a path only he seemed to see. Sage tried not to notice how right this felt, being in his arms, breathing his scent, feeling his steady heartbeat against her cheek. This was wrong. Damien was her mate, not this scarred, dangerous king who looked at her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. But her wolf didn't care about logic. Her wolf was practically rolling over in submission, begging for his attention. The bond should have broken, Sage said quietly. Why didn't it break? I don't know. Lucian's voice was troubled. But we're going to find out. Because if it doesn't complete, one way or another, you'll die within 3 days. 3 days. 72 hours to either complete a rejection that refused to finish, or what? Lucian kicked open the door to a small cabin tucked deep in the woods. He carried her inside, laying her carefully on a leather couch in front of a cold fireplace. Stay there, he ordered, moving to light the fire. Flames sprang up, casting dancing shadows across the room. Sage watched him work, her mind spinning. The pain had settled to a dull ache, manageable as long as she didn't think too hard about Damien. About the bond still connecting them, weakened but unbroken. About the way Lucian's touch made everything better. Alpha King, she said softly. Lucian. He turned to face her, firelight gilding the edges of his scarred features. If you're going to possibly die in my cabin, you might as well call me by my name. That's not funny. No, he agreed. It's not. He moved closer, crouching beside the couch so they were eye level. This close, she could see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes, the thin white scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. He looked old and young all at once, worn down by responsibility but still powerful, still dangerous. Let me see your arm, he said. She extended it without thinking. Lucian pushed up her sleeve, revealing the mate mark that should have appeared where Damien touched her during the bond. Instead of the usual dark, clear image, the mark was silver and hazy, incomplete, like a photograph that hadn't fully developed. Lucian traced it with one finger, and Sage gasped as warmth spread from the contact. Fascinating, he murmured. Your wolf, what does she say about all this? She's confused. In pain. She doesn't understand why our mate rejected us. But. Sage met his eyes, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. She likes you. Something flashed across Lucian's face, surprise, hunger, something she couldn't name. His hand tightened on her wrist, and for a moment, she thought he might lean closer. Then he pulled back, releasing her and standing abruptly. Get some rest, he said, his voice rough. I need to make some calls. Find out if anyone knows how to fix an incomplete bond. And if they don't? Lucian looked at her over his shoulder, his expression unreadable in the firelight. Then we figure out why your wolf likes me, Sage Winters. Because that shouldn't be possible either. Chapter 2. Sage woke to silk sheets and the smell of cedar. For a moment, she lay still, disoriented. The last thing she remembered was Lucian telling her to rest, the fire crackling in the cabin, the dull ache of the incomplete bond settling into her bones like an old injury. This wasn't the cabin. She sat up slowly, taking in her surroundings. The bed was enormous, carved from dark wood and draped with forest green curtains. The room stretched out around her, a sitting area with leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest, a fireplace bigger than her old bedroom. Everything spoke of wealth and power, from the antique rugs to the oil paintings on the walls. She was in the palace. In the Alpha King's private wing, if the scent markers were any indication. Every surface carried Lucian's signature, pine and smoke and wild places. Sage threw back the covers and discovered someone had changed her clothes while she slept. Instead of her simple ceremony dress, she wore a soft nightgown in dove gray. Her silver-streaked hair tumbled over her shoulders, wild and uncombed. How long had she been asleep? The door opened, and a woman in her 50s entered carrying a tray. She had the bearing of a wolf but moved with the efficiency of someone who'd spent decades in service. You're awake, the woman said, setting the tray on a side table. Good. The king said to let him know the moment you stirred. I'm Margaret, head of the household staff. Where? Sage's voice came out rough. She cleared her throat. Where am I? The king's suite. East wing, top floor. Margaret poured tea from a silver pot. You've been asleep for 14 hours. It's nearly noon. 14 hours. Sage pressed a hand to her chest, feeling for the bond. It was still there, a dim thread connecting her to Damien, but the pain had receded to a distant throb. Drink this, Margaret said, handing her the tea. It's got herbs to help with the bond's sickness. The king's been researching all night. Sage took the cup, wrapping her hands around the warmth. I should be in the pack hospital, not the king's orders. Something in Margaret's tone suggested she'd seen enough in her years to know better than to question Lucian's decisions. He wants you comfortable. Safe. Safe. The word made Sage's wolf stir, pressing close like she approved. Margaret moved to the windows, pulling back heavy curtains to reveal the late morning sun. There are clothes in the wardrobe. The king requests your presence in his study when you're ready. Take your time, he's got meetings until 2. I don't understand. Sage set down the tea before her shaking hands could spill it. Why is he doing this? I'm nobody. Just an Omega who got rejected by his son. Margaret paused at the door, her expression softening. Maybe you should ask him that yourself, dear. She left, closing the door with a soft click. Sage sat in the enormous bed, surrounded by luxury she'd never dreamed of, and tried to make sense of what was happening. 24 hours ago, she'd been invisible, a low-ranking Omega who cleaned houses and did odd jobs around the pack territory. Now she was in the Alpha King's private suite, wearing clothes that probably cost more than she made in a year. Because Damien had rejected her. The bond pulled, a sharp reminder. She gasped, pressing a fist to her sternum as pain flared. Even muted, even distant, it hurt. The incomplete severance left her raw, exposed, like a wound that couldn't quite heal. But Lucian's presence helped. His scent in the room, his touch yesterday, both had eased the pain in ways that shouldn't be possible. Your wolf likes me, she'd told him. That shouldn't be possible either. What was happening to her? Sage forced herself out of bed and into the bathroom, which was bigger than her entire old apartment. She showered quickly, washing away the lingering traces of the ceremony, then examined herself in the mirror. The same face looked back, oval-shaped, with high cheekbones and a pointed chin. Her eyes were gray, unremarkable except for the ring of silver around each pupil that matched the streaks in her dark hair. Her Omega build was slight, barely 5'4", with gentle curves instead of the strong, angular beauty of female alphas. Nothing special. Nothing that would catch a crown prince's eye, let alone a king's. She found the wardrobe Margaret had mentioned and gasped. It was full of clothes, all in her size, soft sweaters, tailored pants, dresses in jewel tones. Everything tasteful, expensive, and brand new. Lucian had prepared for her. As if he'd known she'd be here. The thought made her wolf growl low in approval, but Sage pushed the feeling away. She chose simple black pants and a cream sweater, braided her hair over one shoulder, and left the suite before she could lose her nerve. The palace was a maze of corridors and staircases. Sage got lost twice before a young beta pointed her toward the king's study on the second floor. She stood outside the heavy oak door, gathering her courage, then knocked. Enter. Lucian's voice sent a shiver down her spine. She opened the door. The study was all dark wood and leather, lined with bookshelves that reached the ceiling. A massive desk dominated one end, covered in papers and maps. Lucian stood at the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. He'd changed since last night, now wearing black pants and a charcoal shirt that stretched across his broad shoulders. His silver-streaked hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. You look better, he said without turning. The bond pain? Manageable. Sage closed the door behind her, suddenly aware they were alone. Thank you for everything. The room, the clothes. But I don't understand why. Sit. It wasn't harsh, but it was an alpha command. Sage found herself moving to one of the leather chairs before her conscious mind caught up. She perched on the edge, spine straight, while Lucian finally turned to face her. Those ice-blue eyes studied her with an intensity that made her feel naked. Exposed. Like he could see straight through to her soul. "How much do you know about your parents?" he asked. The question threw her. "Not much. They died when I was 3. A car accident on the mountain road. I went into pack foster care after that." "Do you know where they came from? What pack they belonged to?" "No. The records were lost in a fire at the pack house when I was 10. She frowned. "Why does this matter?" Lucian moved to his desk, pulling out a leather-bound book. He opened it carefully, turning pages until he found what he wanted. Then he held it out to her. "Because your parents lied about who they were. And you, Sage Winters, are not what you think you are." Sage took the book with trembling hands. The page showed an illustration, a family tree, branches spreading across the yellowed paper. At the top, written in elaborate script, the ancient bloodline of the Trueborn. "I don't understand," she whispered. "The ancients were the first werewolves," Lucian explained, moving to stand beside her chair. "Born from the union of mortal and divine, blessed by the moon goddess herself. They were stronger, faster, more powerful than any wolf that came after. For centuries, they ruled all territories." Sage traced the family tree with one finger. The names meant nothing to her. What happened to them? "They were hunted. 300 years ago, the other packs rose up. The ancients were too powerful, too dangerous. They could command any wolf, dominate any alpha. So the packs formed an alliance and waged war. It took 50 years, but eventually, every ancient bloodline was wiped out." Lucian paused. "Or so we thought." He reached past her, pointing to a name near the bottom of the tree. "Lysandra Moonwhisper. Your mother," he said quietly. "Last surviving daughter of the Moonwhisper line. She went into hiding 30 years ago with your father, changed their names, lived as ordinary wolves." The room spun. Sage gripped the book harder, her knuckles white. "That's impossible. I'm an Omega. I can barely shift. There's nothing powerful about me. Because your wolf isn't fully awakened." Lucian crouched beside her chair, putting them at eye level. "Ancient wolves don't mature until a significant emotional event triggers their power. Usually death, or loss, or..." He touched the incomplete mate mark on her wrist. A mate bond gone wrong. The mark tingled under his fingers. Sage jerked back, cradling her arm against her chest. "You're saying the rejection is waking me up?" "I'm saying Damien's rejection didn't complete because your wolf is too powerful for a normal bond severance. The ancient bloodline can't be rejected so easily. Your genetics won't allow it." Sage stood abruptly, needing distance. She moved to the window, staring out at the forest without really seeing it. Her mind raced, trying to process this information. Ancient bloodline. Trueborn Alpha. Powerful enough to survive an incomplete rejection. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Why do you care?" Silence stretched behind her. When Lucian finally spoke, his voice was closer than she expected. "Because the kingdom needs you." She turned. He'd followed her to the window, standing close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. His expression was unreadable, carved from stone. "The Blackthorn line has held the Northern Territory for 2 centuries, he continued. "But we're weakening. Each generation produces fewer alphas, more betas. In another 100 years, we won't be strong enough to hold our borders. The southern and eastern packs will move in, and everything my family built will crumble. What does that have to do with me? You're ancient. Your genetics are pure, undiluted by centuries of breeding with weaker bloodlines. If you were to mate with a Blackthorn, if you were to bear heirs, you could strengthen our line. Produce Trueborn Alphas again. Save the kingdom." Understanding crashed over her like a wave. "You want to use me?" For breeding. I want to save my people. Lucian's jaw tightened. And I'm offering you a choice. You could die from this incomplete bond, Sage. The pain will only get worse. Within 3 days, it will consume you. Or. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with one scarred hand, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Or you become my chosen mate. My queen. You bear the next generation of Blackthorn heirs, and in exchange, I give you protection, status, and power beyond anything you've imagined. No one will ever reject you again. No one will ever look down on you. You'll stand at my side as an equal. Sage's breath caught. His touch sent warmth spreading through her body, soothing the bond pain until it was barely a whisper. Her wolf practically purred, pressing toward him, begging for more. I'm your son's mate, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. An incomplete bond. It's weakening every hour. Soon it will be gone entirely. Lucian's thumb traced her lower lip, and she shivered. You and I, we're not bound by fate, Sage. But we could build something stronger. A choice, made with clear eyes and purpose. A partnership. You don't love me. No, he agreed. But I respect you. I see what you truly are. And I promise you, I will never reject you. Never humiliate you. Never make you feel less than what you are. Unlike Damien. He didn't say it, but the words hung between them anyway. Sage wanted to pull away, to think clearly without his touch clouding her judgment. But her wolf wouldn't let her. Her wolf wanted to lean into his palm, to accept everything he offered. I need time, she whispered. You have 3 days. Lucian's expression softened slightly. Then the bond will kill you, or your wolf will awaken fully and break it herself. Either way, a decision must be made. He released her and stepped back, putting professional distance between them once more. I've arranged for you to have full access to the library. Research your bloodline, learn about the ancients. Make an informed choice. He moved to his desk, shuffling papers like they'd been discussing pack business instead of marriage. Margaret will show you around. You're free to go anywhere in the palace except the south wing. That's Damien's territory. Damien. His name felt strange on her tongue. Does he know? About what I am? Not yet. Something dark flickered across Lucian's face. But he will. Soon enough. Sage turned to leave, her mind whirling with too many thoughts to process. She made it to the door before Lucian spoke again. Sage. She looked back. He stood backlit by the window, powerful and dangerous and somehow lonely. I meant what I said. You're not nobody. You never were. Damien was a fool not to see it. Her chest tightened. And you? Do you see me, or do you just see what I can give you? Lucian was quiet for a long moment. When he finally answered, his voice was rough, almost vulnerable. I'm still figuring that out. The library was a sanctuary. Sage spent the rest of the afternoon buried in books, learning about a heritage she'd never known she had. The ancients had been formidable, capable of shifting in seconds, healing from almost any wound, dominating lesser wolves with a glance. They'd been worshipped and feared in equal measure. They'd also been slaughtered because of that fear. She found records of the Great Purge, as it was called. Entire bloodlines executed, down to the last child. The Moon Whisper line had survived longest, using their gifts to hide, to blend in. Until 300 years later, only Sage's mother remained. And now Sage. Interesting reading? The voice made her jump. She looked up to find Damien standing at the end of her table, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral. He looked terrible. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his golden hair was disheveled, and his clothes, usually immaculate, were rumpled. The mate bond pulled sharply, recognizing him, reaching for him even as Sage's conscious mind recoiled. What are you doing here, she asked. I could ask you the same thing. He moved closer, and she caught his scent, amber and earth, familiar and painful all at once. I heard you were staying in the palace. In my father's wing. He offered me sanctuary. Is that what he's calling it? Damien's laugh was bitter. He pulled out a chair and sat without invitation, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. How are you feeling? The bond. Still there. She touched her wrist unconsciously. Weakened, but not gone. I know. His voice dropped. I feel it too. It's like having a phantom limb. Something that should be gone but isn't. They sat in silence, the incomplete bond humming between them. Sage watched emotions flicker across Damien's face, regret, frustration, longing. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what I did at the ceremony. The way I did it. You didn't deserve that humiliation. But you're not sorry you rejected me. He flinched. The alliance with the South. Politics, she interrupted, echoing his father's contempt. You chose politics over your fated mate. I understand, Damien. You don't have to explain. Do you? He leaned forward, intensity burning in his amber eyes. Because I'm not sure I understand it myself anymore. The bond won't let me sleep. Won't let me think. Every time I'm near Katerina, it screams that she's wrong, that you, he cut himself off, jaw clenching. That I'm what? That you're mine. The words came out rough, almost angry. You're supposed to be mine, Sage. My mate, my queen, my future. And I threw you away for a political marriage that makes me sick to even think about. Sage's heart clenched. This was what she'd wanted to hear at the ceremony, that he regretted his choice, that he saw his mistake. But now, with Lucian's offer fresh in her mind and ancient blood supposedly running through her veins, Damien's words felt too little, too late. You made your choice, she said quietly. Now I'm making mine. My father. It wasn't a question. Damien's hands fisted on the table. He's offered you something, hasn't he? A place at his side. He told me what I am. What my bloodline means. Ancient bloodline. Damien's laugh was sharp. He's been researching you since the ceremony. Digging through old records, making calls to historians. He knew, Sage. Before I ever rejected you, he knew what you were. The words hit like a physical blow. What? My father is many things, but he's not impulsive. He doesn't act without planning. Damien stood abruptly, pacing like a caged wolf. He scented you at the ceremony before the mate bonds revealed themselves. I saw his face, he recognized something in your blood. Then I rejected you, and he played the hero, sweeping in to save you. Sage's mind raced back to that moment. Lucian stepping into the circle, his attention focused on her with laser-like intensity. The bond won't let her, he'd said, as if he'd already known what would happen. You think he manipulated the situation? I think my father is a master strategist who saw an opportunity and took it. Damien stopped pacing, turning to face her. He wanted you for himself, Sage. And he knew exactly how to get you, let me reject you, then offer you everything I took away. The study door swung open before Sage could respond. Lucian entered, his gaze sweeping from Sage to Damien and back again. His expression was unreadable, but his wolf pressed close to the surface, making his eyes flash blue. Damien. I believe you have meetings with the Southern delegation this afternoon. I'm talking to Sage. You rejected Sage. Your right to her time ended with those words. Lucian's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Leave. Now. For a moment, Sage thought Damien would challenge him. The tension crackled between father and son, two alphas on the edge of violence. Then Damien's shoulders slumped, and he looked at Sage with something that might have been desperation. Just think carefully about what he's offering you. And ask yourself why. He left, the door closing with controlled force behind him. Sage stood slowly, her legs shaky. Is it true? Did you know I was Damien's mate before the ceremony? Lucian didn't answer immediately. He moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back, the same position she'd found him in earlier. Yes, he said finally. The admission made her stomach drop. And you let him reject me anyway. I knew my son would reject you the moment he realized what you were. Too low-ranking, too politically inconvenient. Lucian turned, and there was no apology in his eyes. He's weak, Sage. Smart, capable, but weak where it counts. He would have made your life miserable, trying to hide you away while maintaining his precious alliance. So you just let him destroy me? I let him make his choice. And then I made mine. He walked toward her slowly, deliberately. I won't apologize for wanting you. For seeing what you are and knowing you deserve better than a weak prince who couldn't handle the truth of fate. You want to use me, Sage said, but her voice wavered. I want to partner with you. There's a difference. He stopped close enough to touch but didn't. I've been honest about what I need from you, heirs to strengthen my line. But I'll give you everything in return. Power, protection, a throne. Can Damien offer you that? Even if he broke his engagement, which he won't, could he ever truly appreciate what you are? Sage wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Because Lucian was right. Damien had seen her as an inconvenience, an obstacle to his political plans. Even now, his regret seemed more about losing something that belonged to him than losing her. This isn't fair, she whispered. No, Lucian agreed. But it's honest. I'm not pretending to be your fated mate, Sage. I'm offering you a choice, with clear eyes and no illusions. 3 days to decide if you want to rule at my side or die from an incomplete bond. He reached out, tucking a strand of silver-streaked hair behind her ear. The touch sent warmth flooding through her, and her wolf practically begged her to lean into his palm. You want to know if I see you or just what you can give me, he said quietly. The truth? I'm not sure yet. But I'm willing to find out. Are you? Before Sage could answer, a scream echoed from somewhere in the palace, high-pitched, terrified, followed by shouting. Lucian's entire body tensed. He strode to the door, throwing it open. Margaret stood in the hallway, face pale. It's Lady Katerina, she said breathlessly. She's been attacked. In the south wing. Someone tried to kill her. Chapter 3. The attack on Katerina changed everything. Sage stood in the king's study 3 hours later, watching as Lucian paced like a caged animal. Margaret had reported the details. Katerina found unconscious in her chambers, claw marks across her throat, her guards dead at the door. She'd survived only because her personal maid had heard the struggle and screamed, scaring off the attacker. It's a message, Lucian said, his voice tight with controlled fury. Someone doesn't want this alliance between North and South. They're trying to start a war. Or frame someone for attempted murder, added Marcus, the pack elder, from his seat near the fireplace. His ancient eyes studied Sage with uncomfortable intensity. The girl was found with silver wolf hair clutched in her hand. Sage's stomach dropped. No. I was in the library all afternoon. I never went near. We know. Lucian stopped pacing, turning to face her. Your scent wasn't in that room. Someone planted evidence. But the southern delegation is demanding justice, and appearances matter. They want me gone, Sage whispered. They want you dead, Marcus corrected bluntly. You're ancient, girl. Even unconscious, that Silverclaw bitch recognized what you could become. The old families remember the purges. They'll do anything to prevent an ancient from rising to power again. Lucian's hands fisted at his sides. Then we give them something else to worry about. He crossed to Sage in 3 strides, taking her hands in his. The touch eased the constant ache of the incomplete bond with Damien, replacing it with warmth that spread through her entire body. Marry me, Lucian said. Tonight. Before the full pack. Become my queen and my mate, and I'll shield you with every resource at my command. Sage's breath caught. That's not a proposal. That's a business transaction. It's survival. His grip tightened. You have hours before the Southern Alpha arrives demanding answers. Once he sees that evidence, he'll call for your execution. But if you're queen, if you bear my mark, killing you means declaring war on the Blackthorn line. Even the South won't risk that. Your son rejected you. Publicly. He has no claim on you anymore. Something dark flickered in Lucian's eyes. Make your choice, Sage. Die as a rejected Omega, or live as my queen. It wasn't really a choice at all. Yes, she said quietly. I'll marry you. Marcus stood, leaning heavily on his ceremonial staff. Then we do this now. Before anyone can object or interfere. He looked at Lucian with something that might have been approval or might have been pity. You understand what you're doing, boy? Taking your son's mate, rejected or not, will split this pack down the middle. I'm aware. And you're willing to pay that price? Lucian looked down at Sage, his scarred face unreadable. I've paid worse. They assembled in the great hall at midnight. Sage wore a dress that Margaret had produced from somewhere, deep green silk that brought out the silver in her hair, with a neckline that left her shoulders bare. Her hands shook as servants braided her hair with wolfsbane flowers, the traditional symbol of claiming. You don't have to do this, Margaret said quietly, fastening a pendant around Sage's neck, the Blackthorn crest in silver and onyx. The king would find another way to protect you. Would he? Sage studied herself in the mirror. She looked like a stranger, regal, powerful, nothing like the Omega who'd been rejected 2 days ago. Or would he just move on to his next strategic plan? Margaret's silence was answer enough. Sage descended the grand staircase to find the hall packed with wolves. The entire pack had been summoned, their faces ranging from curious to hostile. She saw betas whispering behind their hands, alphas standing with arms crossed in judgment. Near the front, the southern delegation clustered around Katerina, who wore bandages at her throat and triumph in her eyes. And there, standing apart from everyone else, was Damien. Their eyes met across the crowded hall, and the incomplete bond flared with sudden pain. Sage gasped, stumbling on the stairs. Damien moved instinctively toward her, then stopped as Lucian appeared at the bottom of the staircase, hand extended. Steady, Lucian murmured as she reached him. His touch drove away the pain, replacing it with that strange warmth. Just a little longer. Once we complete the ceremony, your bond with Damien will fade completely. Would it? Sage wasn't sure. The incomplete bond had proven remarkably resilient. What if their claiming didn't sever it? What if it made things worse? Marcus stood before the ancient altar at the hall's center, his voice carrying through the space as he began the traditional words. We gather under the moon's witness to observe a claiming. Alpha King Lucian Blackthorn seeks to make Sage Winters his chosen mate and queen. Does anyone challenge his right? Silence. Sage searched the crowd for Damien, but he disappeared into the shadows. Does the female accept this claim willingly, with clear mind and open heart? Sage's voice came out steadier than she felt. I do. Then let the marking begin. Lucian turned her gently, brushing aside her hair to expose her neck. His breath was warm against her skin, and Sage felt her wolf rise to the surface, eager, anticipating, ready for this even if her human mind still harbored doubts. I, Lucian Blackthorn, claim you as mate and equal, he said, the ritual words echoing through the hall. My flesh to your flesh, my life to your life, my pact to protect you, my strength to shield you. He bit down. The claiming mark burned like fire and ice combined. Sage cried out as power flooded through her, ancient and vast and terrifying. The incomplete bond with Damien screamed in protest, pulling tight enough to hurt, but Lucian's mark burned brighter, overwhelming it. Her wolf surged forward with a force she'd never felt before. Images flashed through her mind, memories that weren't hers, lives she'd never lived. She saw wolves running under a different moon, heard voices speaking in languages long dead. A woman with silver hair stood on a battlefield, power radiating from her like light. The Queen of Two Bonds will bring either salvation or destruction to all shifterkind, *. The vision shattered as Lucian's mark completed. Sage swayed, and he caught her against his chest, his voice rough in her ear. Easy. The ancient blood is waking. You need to breathe through it. But she couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The power kept building, pressing against her skin like it needed to burst free. Her wolf was changing, growing, becoming something more than it had been. Becoming what she was always meant to be. Something's wrong, Marcus said sharply. The mark, look at the mark. Sage felt Lucian turn her, heard the crowd gasp. She looked down at her shoulder where his teeth had broken skin and saw silver light leaking from the wound instead of blood. The mark wasn't settling into the normal dark shape, it glowed, pulsing with each heartbeat, spreading across her skin in intricate patterns. Ancient script. The language of the trueborn. By the goddess, someone whispered. Then Damien was there, shoving through the crowd, his face white with shock. Father, stop this. You don't understand what you've done. Stay back, Lucian commanded, but Damien ignored him. The moment Damien got close, the incomplete bond between him and Sage roared to life. She felt it snap tight, felt her wolf reach for him instinctively, and the claiming mark on her shoulder blazed brighter. No, Sage gasped. No, this isn't. Power exploded outward. The blast knocked everyone within 10 feet to the ground. Sage stood at the center, silver light pouring from her skin, her hair whipping around her face in a wind that came from nowhere. Her wolf was emerging, not shifting, but manifesting, a spectral form of pure energy surrounding her body. She was magnificent and terrifying. Not just alpha-sized but larger, more primal, covered in silver fur that seemed made of moonlight itself. Ancient power rolled off her in waves, making every wolf in the hall drop to their knees in submission. All except Lucian and Damien. A Leaken queen, Marcus breathed from where he'd fallen. The prophecy was true. The bloodline survived. Sage tried to speak, to control the power that threatened to tear her apart, but her wolf had taken over. She felt the claiming bond with Lucian burning on her shoulder, and impossibly, felt a second bond forming with Damien, the incomplete bond suddenly completing with devastating force. No. This can't happen. One mate. The rules, *. Ancient magic doesn't follow modern rules. The spectral wolf threw back its head and howled, a sound that shook the very foundations of the palace. Every wolf in the hall howled in response, unable to resist the command of a Leaken queen. When the silver light finally faded, Sage collapsed. She woke in Lucian's bed, her body aching like she'd fought a war. The king sat beside her, his face haggard, and on the other side, Damien. Both of them. Both watching her with identical expressions of concern and possession. No, Sage whispered, feeling the bonds. Two of them, burning bright and strong on either side of her sternum. One mark on her shoulder from Lucian's claiming, another appearing spontaneously on her other shoulder, Damien's incomplete bond completing itself with ancient magic. This is impossible. Ancient Leaken queens, Marcus said from the doorway, could take multiple mates. It was necessary to strengthen bloodlines, to produce powerful heirs. The magic allows it, even demands it, when the queen's power fully awakens. I don't want two mates, Sage said desperately. I can't. You don't have a choice, Lucian said quietly. The magic has decided. Damien reached for her hand, and she felt his bond hum with recognition. Sage, I'm so sorry. For everything. I should never have rejected you. I should have fought. You made your choice. But even as she said it, she felt his bond calling to her, demanding she acknowledge it. Acknowledge him. My father threatened your foster family, Damien said in a rush. The morning of the ceremony, he told me that if I accepted the mate bond with you, he'd have them executed for harboring ancient bloodline without reporting it to the crown. I rejected you to save them. Sage's head snapped toward Lucian. You didn't. The king's expression was stone. I did what was necessary. You manipulated your own son. You forced him to reject me so you could claim me yourself. I gave him a choice. Lucian's voice was hard. He chose to obey rather than fight. That's not manipulation, that's weakness. Damien flinched, but he didn't let go of Sage's hand. I was trying to protect people you cared about. But I see now my father was playing a longer game. He wanted you from the moment he scented your blood. Because I'm useful, Sage said bitterly. Because I can strengthen his precious bloodline. Because you're magnificent. Lucian stood abruptly, pacing to the window. And yes, because your genetics could save this kingdom. I won't apologize for that. But I never forced you, Sage. You chose to accept my claim. Under duress. You gave me the choice between dying and marrying you. And I'd make that same choice again. He turned, his eyes blazing. Because you're alive. You're queen. And your power, what you displayed in that hall, proves everything I believed about you was right. The worst part was feeling both their bonds, both their emotions bleeding through. Lucian's calculated certainty, his ruthless determination to protect what he'd claimed. And Damien's desperate regret, his wolf howling that she was his mate, stolen by his own father. I can't do this, Sage whispered. I can't be bound to both of you. Ancient law says you must, Marcus interjected. A Lecan queen with 2 mates is a sign of great power. It also means you must navigate their conflicts without favor, must balance their needs with your own. He fixed her with that ancient stare. The prophecy speaks of you, child. The queen of 2 bonds will bring either salvation or destruction to all shifterkind. Your choices from here will determine which. A knock at the door interrupted the tense silence. Margaret entered, her face grave. The Southern Alpha has arrived. He's demanding to see the queen, and calling for her execution for the attack on his daughter. They assembled in the throne room within the hour. Sage wore her queen's crown now, a delicate thing of silver and moonstones that Margaret had placed on her head with shaking hands. The claiming marks from both Lucian and Damien showed clearly on her shoulders, exposed by her formal gown. She'd wanted to hide them, but Marcus had insisted. Let them see what you are. Let them fear it. Alpha Gregor Silverclaw was a mountain of a man with gray-shot hair and cold amber eyes. Katerina stood behind him, still bandaged, playing the wounded victim with perfect precision. These are serious accusations, Your Majesty, Gregor said, his tone carefully neutral as he addressed Lucian. My daughter was nearly killed. Evidence was found placing your queen at the scene. Planted evidence, Lucian corrected. My mate was nowhere near your daughter. So you say. But the hair can be taken from a brush. From clothing. Anyone could have planted it. Lucian leaned back in his throne, every inch the dangerous king. What I find more interesting is who would benefit from framing my queen for attempted murder. Gregor's eyes narrowed. You suggest my daughter orchestrated an attack on herself? I suggest someone did. Lucian gestured, and guards brought forward a bound wolf, a beta with southern pack markings. We found this one trying to flee the territory. He confessed to attacking Lady Katerina on orders from someone in the southern delegation. Katerina's face paled slightly, but she recovered quickly. Lies. He's been tortured. He confessed freely, after we convinced him sanctuary was better than facing his alpha's justice for failure. Lucian's smile was sharp. He was hired to wound Katerina enough to survive, plant evidence, and frame the queen. A shadow faction wants to prevent any ancient bloodline from rising to power. They remember the old wars. That's ridiculous, Gregor blustered, but doubt flickered in his eyes as he looked at his daughter. Sage felt her power stirring, responding to the tension in the room. Her wolf wanted to emerge, to prove she was no victim to be framed and executed. But she held it back, remembering Marcus's words about control. A Lycan queen's power could save or destroy. She had to choose carefully. I didn't attack Katarina, Sage said, her voice carrying through the throne room. She felt both Damien and Lucian's bonds pulse with support. But I know fear when I see it. The ancient bloodlines were destroyed because wolves feared what we could become. That fear still lives in those who remember. She stood, and power radiated from her like heat. Every wolf in the room felt it, the pressure of a Lycan queen's presence, ancient and undeniable. I am what I am, Sage continued. I didn't choose this bloodline. I didn't ask for this power. But I'm here now, and I'm alive, and I will not apologize for existing. She met Gregor's eyes steadily. Your daughter may have been a pawn or a player in this game. That's for you to determine. But I will not be executed for crimes I didn't commit. Silence hung in the throne room. Sage felt her power building, felt the ancient magic responding to her emotions. She was vaguely aware of silver light beginning to leak from her skin again. Then Damien stepped forward, positioning himself between Sage and the southern delegation. My father's queen is also my mate, he said clearly. Ancient magic has bound us both to her. If you move against her, you move against the entire Blackthorn line, both current and future. Gregor's eyebrows shot up. Both? How is that? Ancient law, Marcus interjected, thumping his staff on the ground. A Lycan queen may take multiple mates. The magic has chosen. Any who challenge this challenge the goddess herself. Sage felt Lucian's spike of satisfaction through their bond. He'd planned this, let Damien's bond complete, knowing it would bind his son to supporting her. One more piece moved on his strategic board. She should have been angry. Should have hated him for the manipulation. But through their bond, she also felt his fierce protectiveness, his genuine satisfaction that she was safe. Lucian was ruthless and calculating, but he was also completely, utterly committed to keeping her alive. It was more than she'd ever had before. Gregor studied the three of them, king, queen, and prince, then slowly inclined his head. I see the goddess has made her well known. The southern pack will not move against a Lycan queen. He glanced at Katarina, his expression hardening. Though I will investigate these accusations thoroughly. If someone in my delegation orchestrated this attack, they will face southern justice. Katarina's mask slipped for just a moment, showing pure hatred beneath the careful victim's expression. Then she composed herself, dropping into a curtsy that was just mocking enough to insult. Of course, Your Majesty. I'm just grateful to have survived. As the southern delegation filed out, Sage felt exhaustion crash over her. The power surge, the double bonds, the political maneuvering, it was too much. Her knees buckled. Both Lucian and Damien moved to catch her, their hands touching her simultaneously. The three-way bond flared bright enough to hurt, and Sage saw another vision. The silver-haired woman on the battlefield, but clearer now. She stood between two massive wolves, one dark as midnight, one golden as dawn. Power flowed between all three of them, stronger together than apart. Balance *, a voice whispered in her mind. Find balance, or the power will consume you all. The vision faded. Sage found herself supported between father and son, both looking at her with concern that bled through their bonds. She needs rest, Lucian said. She needs answers, Damien countered. About what she is, what she can do. She needs both of you to stop talking about her like she's not here, Sage interrupted wearily. She pulled away from them, standing on her own despite her shaking legs. I'm going to my chambers. Alone. You both need to figure out how this is going to work, because I can't deal with your territorial nonsense on top of everything else. She walked out with as much dignity as she could muster, feeling their bonds pulse with frustration and worry behind her. In her chambers, their chambers, technically, since she was now queen, Sage collapsed onto the bed and stared at the ceiling. Two mates. Ancient power. A prophecy that marked her as either salvation or destruction. And the growing certainty that everyone around her was playing games she didn't understand, moving pieces on a board she couldn't see. A soft knock at the door made her tense. I said alone. I know. Damien's voice, muffled through the heavy wood. But there's something you need to know. About the prophecy. About what your power really means. Sage closed her eyes, feeling both bonds tug at her. Lucian's mark pulsed on her left shoulder, commanding and possessive. Damien's on her right, desperate and pleading. She was queen now. She was powerful. She was also trapped between two alphas who both wanted her for different reasons, bound by magic she didn't understand, marked by a prophecy that terrified her. The question was, would she become their salvation, or their destruction? Only time would tell. But first, she needed to hear what Damien had to say about the prophecy. Because something told her the real game was just beginning. Chapter 4. Sage let Damien in. He entered cautiously, like approaching a wild animal, and settled into the chair by the fireplace rather than sitting on the bed. The bond between them hummed with his nervousness, his desperate need to explain. The prophecy, Sage said, pulling a blanket around her shoulders. Tell me. Damien leaned forward, elbows on his knees. In the firelight, he looked younger, more vulnerable than the arrogant prince who'd rejected her. Marcus only told you part of it. The full prophecy was recorded by the last Leaken queen before she died 300 years ago. He pulled a worn leather journal from his jacket and handed it to her. The pages were yellowed, the handwriting elegant but hurried, as if written in fear. Sage read aloud, "The Queen of Two Bonds will rise when darkness threatens to consume all. She will stand between past and future, between tradition and change. Her choice will reshape the world, but the magic that binds her will also destroy her unless she breaks the ancient laws or remakes them entirely." Her hands trembled. What does that mean? It means the dual bond will kill you. Damien's voice was raw. Ancient texts are clear, no wolf can sustain two mate bonds. The magic tears you apart from the inside. You have weeks, maybe a month, before your body can't take it anymore. The words hit like physical blows. Sage touched both marks on her shoulders, Lucian's claiming bite on the left, Damien's mysteriously completed bond on the right. Both pulsed with life, with connection, but underneath she felt it, a wrongness, like two opposing forces pulling her in different directions. There has to be a way to fix this. There is. 3 ways, actually. Damien stood, pacing. First, you complete the bond with one of us fully, severing the other. It's called the choice of one. The rejected mate lives, but they lose part of themselves forever. Sage felt sick. That's not a choice. That's choosing who to destroy. Second option, the triad ritual. It's ancient, forbidden, barely documented. 3 wolves enter, their bonds merge into a single pack connection. All 3 become equals, bound together. He met her eyes. But it's never been done with a father and son. The power dynamics could tear us all apart. And if it fails, all 3 of us die. And the third option? You reject both of us. Sever the bonds yourself before they kill you. Damien's voice dropped. You'd survive, but you'd lose your Leaken Queen powers. You'd become fully human, no wolf, no magic, no connection to our world. Sage stared at him. 3 impossible choices. Destroy one mate, risk all 3 lives, or lose everything that made her what she was. How long do I have to decide? The next blood moon. 18 days. Damien returned to the chair, his amber eyes intense. But Sage, there's more you need to know. The visions you're having. A crash from downstairs cut him off. Shouting, the sound of running feet. Then Lucian's voice through their bond, sharp with command, *Sage. My office. Now, *. She ran, Damien close behind her. They found the king's study in chaos, Marcus and Margaret huddled over Lucian, who'd collapsed in his chair, his face gray and sweating. What happened? Sage demanded, rushing to his side. She took his hand, and the bond flared. But instead of warmth, she felt poison, dark and spreading, making his wolf whimper. Wolfsbane, Marcus said grimly, holding up a silver flask. In his evening whiskey. Concentrated enough to kill a lesser wolf. Who? Damien's voice was deadly quiet. We're investigating. Margaret's face was pale. But it had to be someone with access to his private quarters. Someone he trusted. Sage felt Lucian's pain through their bond, not just physical, but the betrayal cutting deep. Someone close to him had tried to murder him. Can you heal him? She asked Marcus. The wolfsbane is slowing his healing. He needs time, rest, and, the elder paused, studying her with those ancient eyes. Or a complete mate bond. Your Leaken Queen magic could burn the poison out of his system. But it would require full bonding, body and soul. Sage felt Damien's spike of jealousy through their connection, quickly suppressed. Lucian opened his eyes, focusing on her with effort. Don't, he rasped. Not like this. Not because you feel obligated. You're dying. I've survived worse. He tried to sit up, failed. The Order of the Silver Dusk has revealed themselves. They're marching on our territory with rogue packs, hundreds of wolves. We have 3 days before they reach our borders. His ice-blue eyes burned into hers. I need to lead my pack, Sage. I need to fight. But I won't force you into a complete bond to save my life. The prophecy's words echoed in her mind. She will stand between past and future, between tradition and change. There has to be another way, Sage said desperately. There is. Everyone turned as Katerina Silverclaw stepped into the study, flanked by guards. She looked different, harder, more dangerous, all pretense of the wounded victim gone. The Order sent me to deliver terms. Surrender the Leaken Queen to us, and we'll leave your territory in peace. Refuse, and we'll burn this kingdom to the ground. Damien moved to attack, but the guards raised their weapons, guns loaded with silver bullets. Illegal in wolf territory, but devastatingly effective. I wouldn't, Katerina said pleasantly. My father knows nothing about this, by the way. The Southern Alpha still believes in the old alliances. But the Order transcends pack loyalty. We exist to prevent another ancient purge, to ensure creatures like her, she nodded at Sage, never rise to power again. You poisoned my father, Damien said, his wolf pressing close to the surface. Of course. Weakening your leadership before the battle is basic strategy. Katerina's smile was sharp. The Order remembers what Leaken Queens can do. They can command any wolf, break any bond, reshape pack hierarchy with a thought. Do you really want that kind of power walking free? Sage felt her wolf rising in response to the threat, felt the ancient magic crackling under her skin. You're afraid of me. We're cautious. Katerina's eyes glittered. The last Leaken Queen killed thousands before she was stopped. Entire packs eliminated because they opposed her rule. The prophecy says you'll bring salvation or destruction. We're betting on destruction. She's not like that, Lucian growled, forcing himself to stand despite the poison. She's not. She's not awakened yet, Katerina interrupted. Give her time. Give her power. Watch what she becomes. She addressed Sage directly. You feel it, don't you? The hunger for control. The knowledge that you could make every wolf in this room kneel with a single command. That's what Leaken Queens do. That's what you'll become. The terrible thing was, Sage did feel it. The power lurking beneath her skin, vast and hungry, whispering that she could solve all of this with force. She could command Katerina to leave. Could force the Order to stand down. Could make everyone obey. The thought terrified her. Get out, Marcus said quietly. Before I forget you're under diplomatic protection. Katerina laughed. 3 days, Your Majesty. Choose wisely. She glanced at Sage. The Order offers mercy. Come willingly, and we'll make your death painless. You'll be a martyr rather than a monster. Refuse, and everyone you love will die screaming. She left, her guards backing out with weapons still raised. The moment they were gone, Lucian collapsed again. Sage caught him, feeling the poison spreading through their bond. We need to complete the bond, Damien said urgently. It's the only way to save him in time to lead the pack. And sever yours, Sage said. The choice of one. So be it. But she felt Damien's anguish through their connection, the bond screaming at the thought of being cut away. Better I lose you than we all die. There's another option. Marcus moved to his bag, pulling out an ancient scroll. The Triad Ritual. Risky, dangerous, possibly fatal, but it might save him and keep both bonds intact. We barely have time to prepare for battle, Lucian said through gritted teeth. A complex ritual can be performed tonight, with the moon's power to fuel it. Marcus unrolled the scroll, revealing intricate diagrams and text in the old language. But you all need to understand what you're agreeing to. The Triad bonds 3 wolves together as equals, no hierarchy, no dominant mate. All 3 share everything, power, emotions, decisions. There are no secrets in a triad, no privacy. You'll feel each other constantly. Sage looked between father and son, 2 alphas who'd spent weeks maneuvering for position, using her as a chess piece in their games. Could they really share? Really become equals? The ritual requires absolute trust, Marcus continued. One doubt, one hidden agenda, and it fails catastrophically. Your minds could shatter, your wolves could consume you, or, he paused significantly, it could work. You could become the first successful triad in 3 centuries, powerful enough to stand against the order. And if we don't do the ritual? Sage asked. Lucian dies from the poison, you're weakened by the dual bonds, and Damien tries to defend the kingdom alone against an army that specifically hunts ancient bloodlines. Marcus rolled up the scroll. I'm not saying the triad is a good option. I'm saying it might be your only option. Sage felt both bonds pulsing, Lucian's weakening by the moment, Damien's steady but strained. Through them, she sensed their emotions, Lucian's stubborn refusal to force her choice, Damien's desperate fear of losing her again, and underneath both, the growing awareness that they might have to work together or lose everything. I need to think, Sage said. You have an hour. Marcus checked his watch. The moon reaches its apex at midnight. That's our window for the ritual. They dispersed, Margaret taking Lucian to rest, Marcus preparing the ceremonial space. Sage found herself alone with Damien in the hallway. You can't seriously be considering this, he said quietly. What choice do I have? Let your father die? Let you lose yourself when the bond severs? She leaned against the wall, exhausted. Tell me about the visions. You said there was more I needed to know. Damien glanced around, then led her to a private alcove. You're having visions of the past, aren't you? A silver-haired woman, a battlefield, 2 wolves. How did you know? Because I've been researching your bloodline since the ceremony. The woman you're seeing is Queen Lyanna, the first Lecan queen, the one who was murdered 300 years ago. Damien pulled out his phone, showing her an ancient painting. It was the woman from her visions, beautiful and terrible, power radiating from her. She had 2 mates, Damien continued. Her chosen mate, King Aldrich, and her fated mate, his brother Stefan. The dual bond made her incredibly powerful, powerful enough that Aldrich feared her. So he poisoned her, just like someone poisoned my father tonight. He made it look like she'd been killed by enemies, but the truth was recorded by witnesses who escaped. Sage stared at the painting. She was murdered by her own mate. Because he couldn't share power. Couldn't trust that she wouldn't use her abilities against him. Damien's voice was intense. The prophecy says you're her reincarnation. That history is trying to repeat itself, but this time, you have a choice. She was forced into her bonds. You chose one and fate gave you another. You can decide how this ends. By trusting you and your father not to murder me when I become too powerful? By trusting that we're not Aldrich. Damien took her hands. My father is ruthless, manipulative, and calculating. But he's also loyal to those he claims. He kept my mother safe for 30 years, mourned her death for a decade. He doesn't love easily, but when he does. He doesn't love me, Sage interrupted. He needs my genetics. Are you sure? Damien gestured to the palace around them. He's risking a civil war for you. Defying tradition, alienating allies, facing down the order, all to keep you safe. That's not just genetics, Sage. That's strategy. Protection of an asset. Maybe. Damien moved closer, and she felt their bond warm. But I know what it looks like when my father wants something. And the way he looks at you, it's different. Possessive, yes. But also fascinated. You intrigue him in ways I've never seen. Sage wanted to dismiss it, but through Lucian's bond, she felt echoes of his emotions. Protectiveness, yes. Determination. But also, curiosity. Wonder. Something that might, given time, become more. And you? She asked quietly. Do you want me because I'm your fated mate, or because your father has me? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Both, he finally admitted. I won't lie, part of me hates that he claimed you first. My wolf rages at sharing you with anyone, especially my father. But Sage, I've dreamed of you since the bond first clicked. I feel you constantly. And I know, we're meant to be together. Fate chose us. Fate also gave me to your father. Then maybe fate wants us all. Damien pulled her close, and she let him, too tired to fight. The triad could work. If we trust each other. If we choose it together instead of being forced. That's a big if. I know. He pressed his forehead to hers. But the alternative is watching my father die, losing you forever, and facing an army alone. I'm willing to try the impossible if it means we all survive. Sage closed her eyes, feeling both bonds pull at her. The prophecy whispered through her mind, she will stand between past and future, between tradition and change. Queen Lyanna had been murdered because she threatened the power structure. Sage could feel that same threat in her own power, the ability to command any wolf, to reshape pack bonds, to become something unprecedented. The Order was right to fear her. The question was, would she become the monster they expected, or something new? A bell chimed midnight. Time to decide. They assembled in the ritual chamber, an underground space carved from stone, lit by hundreds of candles. Ancient symbols covered every surface, and in the center, a triangle had been drawn in silver powder. Lucian looked worse, the poison spreading despite his alpha healing. But he stood straight, refusing weakness. Damien stood across from him, tension radiating from every line of his body. And Sage stood between them, feeling both bonds pull. Marcus waited at the triangle's apex, ceremonial robes making him look like something from another age. Last chance to choose differently. Once we begin, there's no stopping. The ritual completes or you all die. Do it, Lucian said. Damien nodded. They all looked at Sage. She took a deep breath, feeling her Lycan queen power rising. I choose the triad. I choose all of us. Marcus began to chant in the old language. The candles flared brighter as magic filled the chamber. He directed them each to a point of the triangle, then cut his palm, letting blood drip onto the silver powder. Blood of the Elder, witness to the bond. 3 will become 1, 1 will become 3. Let those who dare defy tradition step forward. Sage, Lucian, and Damien stepped into the triangle. The magic hit immediately, a crushing pressure that drove Sage to her knees. She felt Lucian's bond flare on her left, Damien's on her right, both pulling in opposite directions. The competing forces tore at her, and she screamed. You must merge them, Marcus called over the roaring magic. Find the place where both bonds meet and pull them together. But how? The bonds were separate, distinct, Lucian's mark of claiming, Damien's mark of fate. They came from different sources, operated on different magic. Unless. Sage remembered the vision. Queen Lioness standing between two wolves, power flowing between all three. Not two separate bonds, but one connection split three ways. She reached deep into her Leaken Queen magic, that vast well of ancient power. Instead of trying to force the bonds together, she let her magic flow through both simultaneously. Silver light poured from her marks, connecting to Lucian on her left and Damien on her right. The bonds resisted, fighting the merger. She felt Lucian's stubborn independence, his refusal to be vulnerable. Felt Damien's jealousy, his resentment of his father. Both of them dominant alphas, unused to sharing anything. Trust, Sage gasped. You both have to trust. Let go of control. I don't know how, Lucian gritted out, his wolf fighting the merge. Neither do I, Damien admitted. The magic was building to critical levels. Sage felt her body starting to tear apart, caught between two immovable forces. Then Lucian spoke, his voice raw. I'm sorry, son. For threatening your mate's family. For manipulating the situation. I wanted her so badly I was willing to destroy you to get her. That's not strength, that's fear. Fear of being alone, of losing another chance at this bond. Damien stared at his father, shock rippling through their forming connection. You were afraid? Terrified. Lucian's walls were crumbling, the magic forcing absolute honesty. Your mother was my whole world. When she died, I became hollow. Then I scented Sage and felt something stir for the first time in a decade. I wanted that feeling back. Needed it. So I schemed and plotted and played games because I couldn't admit I was desperate. The vulnerability in Lucian's voice, this dangerous, scarred king admitting weakness, cracked something in Damien's resistance. I rejected her to protect her, Damien said quietly. But also because I was afraid. Afraid of disappointing you, of choosing wrong, of being too weak to stand up for my own mate. He looked at Sage. Then I lost you, and all I could think was that my father saw your worth when I was too blind. He was willing to fight for you when I wasn't. The bonds began to shift, responding to their truth. Sage felt the magic flowing more easily, finding pathways between all three of them. I'm afraid too, Sage admitted. Afraid of this power inside me. Afraid I'll become the monster the Order expects. Afraid I'll choose wrong and destroy everything. She looked between them. But I'm also tired of being afraid. Tired of everyone else deciding my fate. I want to choose, not because of prophecy or politics or genetics, but because I want both of you. The ruthless king and the conflicted prince. I want all of it. The triangle blazed with silver light. The bonds merged with an explosion of power that shook the entire palace. Sage felt it happen, two separate connections becoming one three-way bond, stronger than anything that had existed before. She could feel Lucian and Damien as clearly as her own heartbeat, feel their emotions, their thoughts, their wolves. And they could feel her. The poison in Lucian's system burned away instantly, incinerated by the combined power of all three. Damien's jealousy evaporated, replaced by certainty that he was exactly where he belonged. And Sage's fear, her terror of becoming a monster, eased as she felt their absolute faith in her flowing through the bond. They'd chosen this. All three of them. Together. The light faded. Marcus was staring at them with something like awe. By the goddess, he whispered. It worked. The first successful triad in 3 centuries. Sage looked down at her shoulders. Both marks had merged into a single elaborate design that spread across her back, a trinity knot in silver, connecting all three of them. She felt the bond pulsing, strong and stable, and for the first time since the blood moon ceremony, there was no pain. Only rightness. Lucian pulled her into his arms, then Damien joined them, and for a moment they just stood there, 3 wolves bound by impossible magic, defying every tradition. The Order isn't going to like this, Damien said. The Order can burn, Lucian replied, his voice stronger now, fully healed. They're marching on our territory in 3 days. Let them come. They're about to learn what a triad bond can do. Sage felt their combined power thrumming through the connection, her ancient magic, Lucian's alpha dominance, Damien's strategic mind. Separately, they were formidable. Together, they might be unstoppable. But as they left the ritual chamber, heading upstairs to prepare for war, Sage felt another vision building, stronger than before, pulling her into the past. She saw Queen Lyanna on that battlefield, power blazing around her. Saw King Aldric approaching with a poisoned cup, saw the moment the Great Queen drank and fell, her mates unable to save her. But this time, the vision continued. Showed what happened after, the kingdom falling into chaos, the ancient bloodlines hunted to extinction, centuries of darkness that followed. The Queen of Two Bonds will bring either salvation or destruction. As Sage emerged into the present, she understood. The prophecy wasn't about her power, it was about her choice. Queen Lyanna had trusted the wrong mate, and everyone paid the price. Sage had the chance to make a different choice, to forge a new path. But the order was coming. War was inevitable. And somewhere in her territory, there was still a traitor who'd poisoned Lucian, someone who might try again. They reached the palace's main floor to find chaos. Guards running, wolves assembling, messengers arriving with urgent news. Margaret rushed toward them, her face pale. Your Majesties. There's news from the border scouts. The Order's army, they're not waiting 3 days. They're already here. Sage felt Lucian and Damien's instant battle readiness through the bond. She moved to the window, looking out over the forest. In the distance, she could see torches, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, converging on Blackthorn territory. And rising above the trees, bathing everything in crimson light, was the blood moon. It had come full circle, started with rejection under the blood moon, now ending with war beneath it. Sage felt her Leaken Queen power rising in response to the threat, felt her mate's strength flowing through their bond. The prophecy whispered one last time in her mind. She will stand between past and future, between tradition and change. Her choice will reshape the world. She turned to Lucian and Damien, seeing the same determination in both their faces. They were hers, she was theirs, and together they would face whatever came. Assemble the pack, Sage said, her voice carrying the weight of her ancient power. The Order wants to destroy me to prevent another purge. Let's show them exactly why they should be afraid. She stepped out onto the balcony, Lucian on her left, Damien on her right. The Blackthorn pack gathered below, hundreds of wolves looking up at their queen. Sage let her power loose, just a fraction, just enough. Silver light radiated from her skin, and every wolf in the territory felt it. Felt the presence of a true Leaken Queen, bound to their alphas, ready to lead them into battle. The pack howled, a sound that echoed through the mountains. And in the distance, the Order's army hesitated, seeing that light and remembering why their ancestors had feared the ancients. Sage stood between her mates as the blood moon rose higher, her decision made, her power unleashed. She would not repeat history. She would remake it. The war for the future of all shifter kind had begun. Thank you for listening to this story. Like, share and subscribe for more.